Hello and happy Wednesday. Today we are welcoming recently married bride Jenny onto the Busy Bride podcast. Jenny got married a little less than 2 months ago, so her advice is real fresh. She and her husband celebrated their reception at Mendenhall Inn with a Pittsburgh cookie table, a Philadelphia mummers appearance, and lots of dancing. Jenny also has an incredible wedding planning tip for brides to help them stay organized, which I personally adore, and I can't wait for you to hear more about it. So let's get started. Hello and welcome to the Busy Bride podcast. I'm your host, Gabriella Marie, and I created this podcast to help you research vendors and learn valuable advice as you plan the most special and true to you wedding day of your dreams. Let's get started. Hey Jenny, thanks so much for being on the show.
Hey, Gabriella, thank you for having me.
Of course. I'm really excited to talk about your wedding because it was almost 2 months ago, not quite.
Yeah, almost.
So it's very, very fresh in my mind, in your mind, I'm sure.
Yep.
So super excited to talk all about that. So to start off, why don't you just say kind of where you're based, where your wedding was, and maybe a fun fact about the day.
Yep, sure. So my name's Jenny. I live in Glen Mills, Pennsylvania, which is about 30-ish minutes outside of Philly. And our wedding was right in this area. So we got married at a Catholic church right down the street from where we live. And then we had our reception at Mendenhall Inn, which is in Chester County, so about 20 minutes from where we live. And a fun fact about our wedding. That's a hard one. Probably we had the mummers come to our wedding. That was pretty fun. So we had a group of mummers from a string band come and do a little performance, which was really fun, and all the guests really enjoyed it.
The mummers were so much fun. I really enjoyed them. It's always fun to photograph people dancing to mummers because everybody's just so excited for them to be there, and they're so colorful, and it's always a fun addition to wedding reception. So big fan of that. Let's go back to the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
You and your husband,
Yep.
Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
How did you guys get engaged, and then how long are you engaged for before you got married?
So we got engaged in August of 2022. We went out for the day. It was our 2-year anniversary, and we went to a winery, and then we wound up at the restaurant where we had our first date. And he kind of threw me off. I kind of had a little feeling maybe he was going to propose, and I thought maybe at the winery, then thought, oh, I guess not. And then he did it at the restaurant where we had our first date. And then after that, we had all of our friends and family at a restaurant down the street to celebrate. So yeah, we got engaged August of 22, and then we got married this past December. So a little over a year we were engaged, like 15 months, which I felt like was a good time period.
Yeah, and we actually went to that same restaurant for your engagement session.
We did, yes, which was really fun and really special to us to be able to do that. So that was awesome. They were really great about it. We just kind of walked in and we got some drinks, did some really cool shots. So that was one of our favorite parts of our engagement session for sure.
I'm so glad. It was really cool to photograph too because it was at a weird point in the afternoon where there was a lull in customers, I guess, the restaurant.
Yeah.
And so the entire upstairs was empty, and they let us just go up there and have our own little mini photo shoot while you had your espresso martinis.
Yeah.
It was really cool. I still love those photos looking in through the window with the reflection of everything, and then you guys inside with your drinks.
Yeah, those were awesome. That was really special to us, just having that as part of our photos that we can always look back on. So that was awesome.
Yes, keeping a special place special.
Absolutely.
Sweet. And you said 15 months felt good for wedding planning. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Did you just feel not stressed out?
I don't know if I would go that far. I definitely had some stress, but it did feel like there was a time in there where once we had all of our, big vendors booked by probably that by January of 2023, there were a good like 4 or 5 months ish where there wasn't really much to do, where we could kind of just chill and relax. And which was nice because we could enjoy our engagement. We could kind of spread out different things that we had to do that summer and really like make a point to make each thing special. And then toward the end, of course, it got stressful. I think that always happens. Just those last couple weeks, there's certain things that you can't do until it gets closer. So that was stressful, but I would say we had enough time where we could stretch things out and we weren't just, trying to squeeze everything in a couple months. So I think it was a perfect amount of time.
That's awesome.
Hmm.
And I remember you saying before that you and Ryan, like, you celebrated all the little things along the way. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so we really made it a point to celebrate every little thing. Like once we booked our venue, I think once we signed with you, we went out and we got a drink. Once Ryan got his tux, we went out and celebrated. When I got my dress and each fitting, my mom and I, or my maids of honor, we would go get a drink or go to lunch. When we did our registry, we also that was a lot of fun. We had fun with that, and then we went out to brunch after that. So it was just nice to be able to have that time and to really celebrate each moment.
That's so great because there's lots of decisions that need to be made and lots of things that need to be done that take time out of
Yeah.
your free time. So
Hmm.
adding in the extra celebration sounds like it just added a lot of joy to what can be more of like a taxing process. So
Yeah, it kind of made it
that's
like an
awesome.
excuse for us to have little date nights or ways to spend time with each other that of course it was surrounding wedding stuff, but it just made it a time to celebrate more.
I love that so much.
Yeah.
So I photographed your wedding and it was awesome. I had so much fun. It was beautiful, but I want to hear it in your words. So if you can just describe the day, you can go like what you did, you can go kind of like the vibe for the day, anything that stood out to you, just kind of describe the day.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we really went into it wanting our day to just be as stress free and enjoyable as possible. So really just did a lot of work on the front end to make sure that happened. Um, I made a pretty detailed timeline of the day, which you helped me with, and then definitely tried to go by that, but didn't really stress that things were happening exactly to the minute. But I think that was really helpful to just know, okay, this is coming at this time. We're going to start hair and makeup at this point. Then this should be happening, just to kind of keep everything on track and not even have to worry that things were going off timeline. My bridesmaids definitely made fun of me and thought my timeline was a little ridiculous, but it all worked out. So the day was awesome. Ryan got ready here at our apartment with his friends and his dad, our groomsmen, and then I was at Mendenhall Inn with my mom, his mom, all my bridesmaids, and it was just really fun. I had a lot of fun making a playlist for that with all my favorite songs, and our hair and makeup team came to Mendenhall Inn and did everything right there. So that I would say is probably one of the most underrated parts of the day. Just like getting ready with all your favorite people was a lot of fun to me. And then we took some photos beforehand of the bridal party. So we didn't do a first look, but we got to get some of our bridal party photos done ahead of time, which was awesome. And then, yeah, then we headed to the church. Everything went well. And then it took our photos and enjoyed the rest of the night. So I feel like it was just a really everything went well. We were sitting at dinner talking about how we couldn't think of anything that had gone wrong in the day, how it was just like the perfect day and just a lot of fun. We wanted to just be with all of our people and have fun. So,
And you definitely did. Like the vibe throughout the day was fun. Everybody was lighthearted,
mhm.
smiling, laughing, joking, just having a good time.
Yeah.
I know it seemed like a lot of people in the wedding party had already been married or had been to a ton of weddings, so
Hmm.
it wasn't anything new.
Yeah.
But everybody still was having just the best time with you guys.
Yeah.
Um, so that was great. And I think we did a good job splitting up the photos too because you didn't want to do a first look.
Hmm.
And so by doing the separate like bridal party photos, groomsmen photos before the ceremony.
Mhm.
Then afterwards, when we got back to the venue, we did just the full wedding party. So that was
Mhm.
like 5-10 minutes.
Yeah,
Like
it
it wasn't
wasn't
that
bad at
long at
all.
all. But we
Mhm.
still got some fun pictures. And then we were able to do bride and groom portraits with you and Ryan before the sunset. And
Mhm.
then there was time for you to like chill before cocktail hour started. And you were able to like walk around the reception and see all the details they had set up with the mirror that said welcome. I forget what that was. And then like the seating chart and everything, like you got to see that before everybody got there.
Yeah, so that was awesome. I feel like we honestly had a decent amount of time to enjoy all of those things, which thank you for that. I feel like you were, just cruising along. We got beautiful pictures and really then got to enjoy just having a moment together, looking at everything at the venue, and then even just hanging out with our bridal party up in the suite was really nice to just like have that time. Um and like you said, I think almost all of my bridesmaids are already married and I've been in their wedding. So I've had a lot of experience being in weddings and just kind of seeing how things run and how things go. So I think that helped me to just know what we wanted for our day. And, thankfully everything went according to plan. It went exactly how we wanted it, which was great.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
So it went according to plan. And then did the wedding day, did it feel like you thought it was going to feel like, or was it different?
No, I think it did feel like probably how I thought I don't know. It was hard to I think I didn't know what it was gonna feel like, how I was gonna feel on that day, but I was definitely happy that I didn't really feel much stress, which maybe I thought I would have felt a little more stressed out, but everything just went perfectly. And it was just about Ryan and I getting married and just us being together. And it was great. Honestly, I think one of my bridesmaids had said she thinks the most stressed out I was throughout the day was when my parents got up and tried to dance on the party bus. And I told them, sit down. I don't want anyone falling. So that was the joke, that was the most stressed I was through the day. But I think it was everything that we had hoped for. And I just felt a sense of calm. I think maybe because, we did do a lot of work on the front end to make sure of that. And then also because at the end of the day, all those little things don't even really matter. All that matters is that, you're marrying your person and all your favorite people are there to celebrate. So,
Absolutely. Yeah, that's all that matters. But it definitely helps when things also flow pretty well.
yeah. I think it's easy for me to say that since things did go according to plan.
Yeah.
It's probably easy for me to say that. But yeah, thankfully everything went the way it was supposed to. So,
Yeah. So you said you did a lot of work on the front end. Did
mhm.
you have anybody helping you with that since you know people who got married pretty recently? Like how did you prepare well for your wedding day?
Yeah. I think all of our vendors were really awesome with that. Like I said, you helped us make a timeline. Our coordinator, Gianna at Mendenhall, was amazing. She really answered any questions that we had about different things and was just always available to answer our questions. And then our DJ also, I had like a hour and 45-minute phone call with him the week of the wedding just about the timeline and how we wanted everything to go. And he really took a lot of time to, make sure he understood our vision and what we wanted for the day or for the night. So that was really helpful. And then yeah, I think just leaning on my people and my resources, like what did you do for this? How did you do that? And just using all of those resources to have everything tie together. But definitely our vendors were a huge part of that, a huge help.
That's awesome. And I'm glad to hear that too, because I know as a wedding planner myself, I always want to make the vision come to life for the couples I'm photographing. Um, and it's great to hear that that's exactly what happened for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And you did such a great job with that. Like, I think Ryan and I are pretty go with the flow, but there were certain things that we wanted. And one of those was just the most time we could have with our people, and at our reception and our cocktail hour. And of course we wanted a lot of photos and beautiful photos, and you made that happen. So that was huge for us. And same with our DJ. We had a lot of specific songs that we wanted, and different like events throughout the reception, and he was really really cognizant of that and made all of that happen. So we really couldn't ask for better vendors.
So happy to hear that. That's amazing. So moving on to other things that you loved.
Mhm.
What's something that really stood out to you on your wedding day? Something that you loved, something you think you and Ryan planned for really well, or just a part of the day that was like, wow, that was incredible.
Honestly, I think our first dance went really well, which we weren't so sure how it would go. Um, I mean, I grew up dancing, and Ryan has some rhythm, so we started out strong. And when we started like practicing our first dance, at first we were, on YouTube finding different choreographed dances to our song, and some of them were just a little too stiff for us. Like we kind of wanted to flow with it. So we learned a couple moves. We learned a little dip, and then we learned a lift, and just like a couple little tips really helped us. And we went from there. And I think it went really well, which we weren't. I mean, we felt confident, but we weren't overly confident. But I think it went a lot better than we thought it would, and people really liked the little lift at the end. So that was really cool.
It went really well. Everybody loved the lift at the end. I loved the lift at the end because that was a surprise for me too. And that's one of my favorite photos from your wedding day is when Ryan's lifting you up and the light is catching you just the perfect way and you're smiling down at him. I adore that moment. So that was amazing. I'm
Yeah.
glad everything worked out well. Is
Mhm.
there any tips that you remember that were helpful to you and Ryan that you can share?
I think one of them was like for for him, it was as far as like leading, it was kind of like just practicing that in like a natural setting, like leading someone through a room, or like leading, I don't know, like to go in a certain direction. Like how would you lead someone? And when you thought about it, it really did make sense. And I think just it is important to practice a little bit. Of course, if you're nervous, especially to practice, but just because, how often do you have all those people looking at you while you're dancing? So I think just, getting those a couple tips. I can't remember who we found on YouTube, but it was this couple that does ballroom dancing, and they just had a couple of really good tips that helped us a lot.
That's awesome. I know there's an
Mhm.
Instagram account that I follow that I think it's called Your First Dance or something like that. And they do
Okay.
similar things where they show like one dip move or one spin move and it's things you can kind of like piece together or just like add into a regular slow dance when the chorus hits or
Yeah,
the fun part of the song comes on. So I think people have an idea in their mind that a choreographed dance has to be like start to finish, every single move is memorized.
right.
But I mean, that's not it at all. Like you can just throw in some pizzazz at
Yeah.
certain points throughout the dance.
Yeah, I think that worked really well for us.
That yes, that's awesome. Um, and I want to talk also about something cool that happened at your wedding, which was the cookie table.
Yes.
Can you talk more about that?
Yes. So the cookie table was another really awesome thing from our wedding. So Ryan's parents are both born and raised in Pittsburgh. Um, their whole family are big Pittsburgh sports fans. They go out there multiple times a year. They're Steelers season ticket holders, so it's a big part of their family. And his mom had told me before about the cookie table tradition in Pittsburgh, and I knew nothing about it really. I had looked it up online and thought, oh wow, this could be really cool. And we at first were like, "Oh, we'll do it at the rehearsal dinner, it'll be easier to have that." And basically what the cookie table is all friends and family of the bride and groom bring homemade cookies to have as part of a cookie table, a dessert table at the wedding. So we had that in addition to our cake, and we had waffles and ice cream. So lots of sweets, which definitely wasn't a problem for our crowd. But So it can be really a huge thing that out in Pittsburgh, they have some really huge displays. So I wasn't sure how ours would be because my family's from Philadelphia and didn't really know too much about it. So it's not like we were a Pittsburgh wedding, but I think it was awesome. It was still, we had a lot of people make cookies. We had a big display, and people just raved about it. We had a bunch of my bridesmaids made cookies, some of Ryan's aunts, his parents. So it was really cool. And one thing that I was worried about was we had to list all of the ingredients as the venue wanted us to do that, just bringing in outside food to just for liability in case anyone were to have an allergy or anything. They wanted all of that listed, which that felt like a big undertaking, but it was so worth it. It was such a hit, and everybody was raving about it. So definitely thank my mother-in-law for that. She kind of made me see like, no, we can do this at the wedding. It might be a little bit of work, but it was definitely worth it. And she really put a lot of work into that too. So that was awesome.
It was a really beautiful display. Like there were different like little signage things around. I think the display was like 3 tables long. Like it was a lot of cookies,
Yeah.
and there were some beautiful platters, and then there were some stacked. They had like these I guess multi-level
Mhm.
shelves for
Yeah.
food.
Mhm.
It just looked really cool, and everybody who had their plate out was like inspecting every single different cookie and
Yeah.
like with a big smile on their face, just so excited to eat. So that's cool that so many different people got to contribute to the wedding too.
Yeah.
And baking cookies isn't a super tall task, so it's a relatively easy way to have an impact on the wedding day. So I loved that as well.
Right.
And those allergen cards, big deal because I have food allergies. So
Yeah.
that also let me know, like, okay, which cookies do I need to stay away from with my allergies and kind of photograph from afar.
Yeah.
So that was helpful
Yeah.
for me personally.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
yeah, I loved the cookie table.
Yeah, that was awesome, and it was just a really
Um,
cool way to, just represent. I feel like we had representation from both of our families, like, Ryan's family from Pittsburgh, we had that Pittsburgh cookie table, to represent that, and then my family from Philadelphia, we had the mummers there, so just both really cool ways to represent our families and bring a little bit of our background to our wedding.
Absolutely. I was gonna touch on that too. Like it was the merging of two cities in one wedding. So I love that as well. Okay. Question for you. Are you and Ryan, would you consider yourselves introverts or extroverts? Because I wanted to talk about the toasts. The toasts were amazing. They were super sweet, and everybody who spoke, like you can tell just what amazing people you guys are and how loved you are by your people. Did you enjoy that, or was it more of like a, "Oh my gosh, I'm the center of attention" moment?
I would definitely say I'm an extrovert. I think anyone that knows me would say that. I definitely like my alone time, and I like to read and have that alone time, but I definitely am an extrovert. And people, we all joke that I get that from my dad. He loves being the center of attention, and then I do as well. Ryan, I would say he's kind of in the middle. He is a little bit more introverted than I am, but once he gets to know people, he's fine, and he likes some attention too. So I think we felt fine with that. Um and yeah, it was really nice to just hear everything that they had to say, and I agree. All of the toasts were beautiful and just perfect.
I loved hearing those toasts. It's part of the day where it's pretty chill for me as a photographer because I make sure I get the photo of the person speaking. I make sure I get some reactions, then some wide shots, some crowd reactions. But after that, it's I just get to listen and enjoy. So that was really an enjoyable part of the reception for me. Um, and I wanted to ask another question. I wanted to go back to the portraits for you
Yeah,
guys. We did an engagement session about a little over a year before the wedding day.
yeah.
Do you think that engagement session helped you guys feel more relaxed and comfortable during purchasing your wedding day? Or do you think it didn't really have a big impact?
No, I think it definitely helped. Prior to that, we hadn't taken any professional photos together. and I think professional photos in general for a long time. So it was definitely helpful just to, get more comfortable in front of the camera, just to kind of take some cues from you on how to pose. I think it was definitely a good way to get ready for that. And it was a lot of fun too. We kind of got to see how, wow, this can be really fun to take pictures together. So I definitely think that was worthwhile and helped us to be ready for the wedding day.
Amazing. I'm glad to hear that. And I always like asking too because it makes sense logistically from my side that I get to kind of get to know a couple and get to know what poses and prompts they respond to well and then use that again on their wedding day. So it's kind of similar vibes.
Right.
But I've never had that experience of the engagement session and then the wedding photos of me. So
Mhm.
I always like asking to make sure it also feels that way for the couples I'm photographing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wrapping up,
Mhm.
do you have a piece of wedding advice? Let's split this into two parts.
Okay.
Do you have a piece of wedding day advice for brides first? Let's talk about the wedding day.
Okay.
Like one big piece of advice you're like, this can help somebody.
Okay. Let's think. One piece of advice. Hmm. I would say just try to get everything that you can get done beforehand to make your life easier and as stress-free as possible on the wedding day. And then whatever happens happens. Kind of just roll with the punches. If things don't go perfect, that's okay as long as, everyone's there and you're getting to marry your person, and um that's all that really matters. So definitely put that work in on the front end, making sure that you have everything in order, you have your timeline set up, and you have every everything that you need for the day to run smoothly. And definitely lean on your vendors for that.
Mhm.
And then on the day of, just have fun, just relax and enjoy it. It's only one day, and it really does go by so fast that I can't imagine if I was stressed out on that day and worrying about every little thing. So just taking the time to enjoy it.
I love that answer. And that kind of wraps into my next question was going to be okay, what's a wedding planning tip or piece
Okay.
of advice?
Yeah,
But I feel like that kind of meshes together unless you have something else.
I actually do.
Go for it.
So I would highly recommend using Google. So use a Google Drive. I created a separate wedding email, which actually I didn't email you on because I made it after we had hired you and started emailing with you. But I made a separate email, and for everything, like the probably about a year in advance, I made that, and it helped to like keep things organized. I used, the drive. I kept all of my contracts in there. Anything that I was planning, I would have a Google Doc for that. I also used Google Forms for anything that I needed my bridesmaids to fill out. So I would send them a Google form. I also had a lot of bridesmaids, so that was really helpful. The cookie table where I needed to collect the ingredient lists, I used Google Forms for that. So I would definitely say make a wedding email. I know a lot of people say that, but not just the email side of it, using your whole Google Drive, using the forms, using all of those things that you can to keep yourself organized was really helpful for me.
That's a great tip. I'm also a Google Drive girly. I adore Google Drive. I love all the organizational features, and it makes sense. There's a lot of different things you need to keep track of. So that's amazing, especially with a big bridal party like you had. The forums is a great idea. So that's awesome. I love that so much.
Yeah, it was a huge help, huge time saver.
Amazing. Um, and then one last question. You've been married for a little less than 2 months.
Yeah.
What is your favorite part about being married? Like, is it special, like how you thought it would be? Like, what's just something that you're loving about it?
I think there's just like a comfort to it. Like, oh wow, we're married and this is, my person forever. I mean, I felt that way before obviously, but there's just a little bit more of that there, I guess, and it's just a nice feeling. Um and it's a little bit, there's not as much stress. I'm done planning the wedding, so we can kind of relax and just enjoy being married. Um thinking about our future and planning other things, and just, we had the best day ever, and we worked together to make that happen. So felt really good about that, and now we're just enjoying being married.
I love that. And planning a wedding together, it helps you like make decisions together, which helps you grow as a couple and able to make decisions later and plan things in the future. So that's amazing that you're just able to take a deep breath and relax and know that forever is a real legally binding thing
Yep,
now.
sure is. It's awesome.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I'm sure a lot of people will learn some great tips
Hmm.
from what you've shared, and just, I mean, get even more excited for their wedding day from all the great things you have to share about yours.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, that was amazing. I love chatting with Jenny and just recapping her wedding day since it wasn't super long ago, and I loved hearing all of her perspectives too. I honestly loved her tip about staying organized with Google Drive because I've heard tons of people talk about using a wedding email to help stay organized before the wedding, but she was the first person to talk about using Google Drive to stay organized, which makes a lot of sense because there's a lot of things you need to keep track of. So that was awesome. If you loved this episode or you found any of the advice helpful, please share this episode with anybody else who could find it helpful. Share it to your Instagram story and tag me at Gabrielle Marie Audie, Gabrielle, two L's, and Audie like the car. And lastly, please give this podcast a 5-star rating and review. That would mean so, so much to me, and it'll really help get this podcast into the hands of busy brides who could use the advice. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate your time. Now go hug your person. I'll see you on Wednesday.